It was nearly midnight when Jake Carter heard the knock on his door. He'd just put his 6-year-old daughter Lily to bed and was cleaning up the dishes from a very modest dinner. Mac and cheese again. Money was tight, and nights like these reminded him how hard single parenthood could be. The knock came again, sharp, hesitant. Jake peeked out the window of his small, weather-worn home on the outskirts of town. Standing on his porch was a young woman, mid-20s maybe, wearing a hoodie soaked from the rain, her face partially hidden under the hood. No car nearby, no suitcase. Just her and a shivering frame. Jake opened the door halfway, cautious. "Can I help you?" I'm sorry," the woman stammered. "I don't mean to scare you. My phone died. I got off at the wrong bus stop and I've been walking for hours. Can I just sit inside for a few minutes? I'm really cold." Everything inside Jake told him to say no. The world wasn't a safe place. And with Lily sleeping just down the hall, he couldn't take chances. But something in her eyes, raw desperation, exhaustion, and something else, honesty maybe, stopped him. He sighed, "Just for a little while." She nodded quickly, stepping inside and wrapping her arms tightly around herself. Jake handed her a towel. "Here, you're soaked." "Thank you," she whispered. He poured her a cup of hot coffee, his last, and they sat quietly at the kitchen table. She held the mug close like it was her lifeline. "I'm Jake," he finally said. "My daughter's asleep, so, you know." "I'm Emily," she said softly. "Thanks for not slamming the door in my face." Jake gave a tired smile. Wasn't easy. Emily gave a small laugh, the kind you let out when you're too tired to do more. "I get it." Over the next hour, Jake learned that Emily had come to town on a bus, visiting someone she claimed but wouldn't say who. Something about her story didn't quite add up, but she wasn't asking for anything. She wasn't trying to sell him a sob story. She just wanted to rest. Jake offered her the couch. "Blankets are in that closet. I have an early shift tomorrow, so you'll have to be out before 7 a.m. "Of course, thank you, really." Before heading to bed, Jake checked on Lily. She was curled up with her stuffed bunny snoring softly. As he turned out the lights, he couldn't help but glance at the living room one more time. Emily had already curled up, her hoodie tossed aside, revealing a clearly expensive cashmere sweater underneath. Strange. But Jake didn't have time to worry. Tomorrow was another long day, early morning at the bookstore, daycare drop-off, bills to pay. The morning after. The next morning, Jake woke up before sunrise and quietly made coffee. He expected the girl to still be asleep, but the couch was empty. A folded blanket, an empty coffee mug, and a note sat on the table. "Thank you for your kindness. You didn't know me, yet you let me in. I won't forget that. Emily." Jake sighed, a strange mix of relief and disappointment filling his chest. He hadn't expected gratitude, but somehow the note felt personal. He folded it up and tossed it in the drawer with unpaid utility bills. At the bookstore later that day, Jake tried to focus, but his mind kept drifting back to Emily. Who was she? Really? That sweater looked like something out of a fashion magazine, and she spoke with a kind of quiet confidence that didn't fit her story of being lost and stranded. Still, she was gone now, probably just passing through. A glimpse behind the curtain. Across town, in a penthouse suite of a luxury hotel, Emily Carson sat on the balcony, freshly showered and dressed in a tailored suit. Her assistant hovered nearby, phone in hand. "Your father is furious," the assistant said nervously. "You missed your meeting with the investors this morning. He wants to know where you were." Emily sipped her coffee. "Tell him I was learning something more valuable than profit margins." The assistant blinked. "Ma'am?" She stood, tying her hair back into a ponytail, looking out at the city. "I found someone who reminded me what real kindness looks like. A man who has nothing, yet gave me shelter." Emily smiled faintly. "And I think I want to see him again." It had been a week since Emily left. Jake had pushed the night out of his mind. Just another weird moment in his unpredictable life as a single dad. But every now and then, he'd catch Lily drawing pictures of Emily with the nice smile, and he'd feel a pang of curiosity he couldn't quite explain. He figured he'd never see her again. So when a sleek black car pulled up outside the bookstore one slow Wednesday morning, Jake barely glanced at it. probably a lost tourist. Then the door opened. Emily stepped out, dressed in a simple blazer, jeans, and sneakers. She looked more relaxed than the first night, but there was something different in her eyes. Determination, maybe. Jake blinked. Emily. She smiled. Hey, Jake. Lily, sitting behind the front counter coloring, squealed and ran out from behind the desk. Emily! Emily dropped to her knees and hugged her tightly. Hey, Peanut, missed you. Jake watched the scene unfold like a dream. What are you doing here? Emily stood, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I owe you the truth. About everything. Jake folded his arms. All right, I'm listening. Emily took a deep breath. My full name is Emily Carson. My father is Richard Carson. He owns Carson Tech. I wasn't lost that night. I left on purpose. I needed space. I needed to remember what people were like when they didn't know my name or my background. Jake stared at her in stunned silence. She went on. That night, you didn't ask me for anything. You didn't treat me like a walking ATM or a headline. You gave me warmth, safety, coffee. She smiled. It meant more than you know. Jake scratched his head. So you're, like, crazy rich? Emily laughed. Yeah, something like that. He shook his head. Why me? What do you want? Her voice softened. I want to help you, and I want to help Lily. You're doing everything on your own, and honestly, you shouldn't have to. Jake raised a brow. Help like how? A check? Charity? No. She stepped closer. A partnership. I want to invest in your bookstore, expand it, make it something special. Kids programs, reading nights, maybe a coffee bar. Something this town could really use. Jake looked around his dusty, quiet little store. This place? Yes, she said. And I want to set up a scholarship fund for Lily, for her future. He paused, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Just say yes, she whispered. 6 months later. The grand reopening of Carter's Book Nook drew a small but excited crowd. The once tired shop now had bright shelves, comfy chairs, a children's corner with beanbags, and even a small coffee counter where Jake served lattes with a sheepish smile. The best part? Kids laughing during Saturday morning story hour, read aloud by Jake, or sometimes Emily. They'd become something of a local mystery, the tech heiress who left her world to help a small town, single dad. Some people called it a publicity stunt, others whispered about romance. Jake didn't care. All he knew was that his life had changed. Not just because of the money, but because someone saw value in him. Emily didn't just give, she stayed. She worked beside him, cleaned, sorted books, helped Lily with homework. And every night when the store closed and Lily fell asleep on the couch with a book on her chest, Jake and Emily would talk about life, dreams, the weird paths that brought them together. One evening as they locked up, Jake turned to her. Why did you come back, really? Emily looked at him, her eyes soft. Because that night, you treated me like I mattered. And somewhere between coffee and mac and cheese, I realized I wanted to be around people who see the world like you do. He smiled. Even if it doesn't come with Wi-Fi? Especially then. She reached for his hand and he didn't pull away. 1 year later, the bookstore had become a cornerstone of the community. Jake and Emily co-owned it now. Lily had her own mini-section labeled Lily's Picks, filled with books about strong girls, silly animals, and bedtime adventures. Emily had stepped back from her corporate family name, but used her connections to bring in guest authors, school programs, and charity drives. They never made a big deal of what they were. No labels, no announcements. But they were together. Lily asked once, "Is Emily my stepmom now?" Jake had chuckled. "She's someone who loves you very much." And that was enough. Sometimes life brings you storms. Sometimes it brings you unexpected guests in the middle of the night. Jake opened his door that night out of kindness. He didn't know he was opening it to a future, brighter, fuller, and filled with a love he never thought he'd find again. And Emily? She walked into a stranger's home hoping to find warmth. She found something better, a place she could finally call home.